What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Mark Carney has indeed done the unthinkable in the House of Commons. Has he really? Well, it's kind of a play on words. No, he hasn't. He's actually done something that we're very commonly aware of, but it is still appalling and very concerning when it comes to the government just taking its seats in the House of Commons, coming back after essentially, a lot of people say, well, it's been about 5 months. The reality is that the government really hasn't been to work since September. No work was really done for the small periods that they came back. Justin Trudeau shot down Parliament because he didn't want to hand over documents to SDTC, to the RCMP back in September. Then they came back to prorogue Parliament, and then it got us to the election. So essentially, almost a year, we haven't seen any government in session. Now, a lot of liberals and a lot of liberal supporting voters were very happy with Mark Carney. They thought, hey, this guy's going to fight Donald Trump. He's already lowered the carbon tax to 0%. Everything's sunshine and rainbows. We're going to have a better leader, better policies, better yada, yada, yada. Canada is going to be strong and Canada poor. The jokes go on and on. More of the same has happened as Mark Carney went to the first day in Parliament yesterday, essentially pulling a Justin Trudeau. More of the same is coming, folks. In fact, it's about to get much worse before it gets better. Garnet Janice tweeting out, breaking news, on Parliament's first day, Mark Carney is already lowering the bar on accountability, limiting his exposure in the House of Commons. He'll be answering fewer questions even than Justin Trudeau. Not a good start. Now, we all know Justin Trudeau always gave word salad. He never answered any questions, and Garnet Janice does allude to that. But we've all seen how Mark Carney handles himself in front of reporters. We all know Mark Carney doesn't like being asked questions, whether it's his financial records, whether it's his policies that are in place, because, of course, he just stole them all from the Conservatives. Let's take a listen to what Garnet Janice actually has to say, and then I'll show you where this is about to get dramatically worse in Canada.
Today is the first day the House of Commons is sitting in the 45th Parliament, and Mark Carney is already lowering the bar on accountability. Breaking news, folks. Mark Carney has announced that he will not be continuing the tradition of Prime Minister's question period. Under Justin Trudeau, every Wednesday, Justin Trudeau stood up in response to questions, every question from the opposition. He didn't always answer the question, but he thought it was important to stand up at least in response to every opposition question on Wednesdays. But Mark Carney is already, before a single question has been asked, he's lowering the bar on accountability by refusing to carry on this tradition. So Mark Carney will be answering far fewer questions even than Justin Trudeau did. He's lowering the bar on accountability on the first day in Parliament.
So this is concerning. A prime minister who doesn't want to answer questions, a prime minister who doesn't want to have accountability for the actions of his government. That's scary. Again, as Alberta debates independence, and we've seen other provinces now jumping into the foray saying, hey, you know what? We're not happy with what we're seeing in Ottawa either. We're not happy with the destruction that's being caused by liberal policies across this country. The fact that Western provinces don't feel that they have a voice. Well, Mark Carney has just shown he doesn't even want to hear his constituents' voices. He doesn't want to hear anybody's voices. He just wants to govern. He wants to make his deals, bleed the country dry, whatever you want to call it. Mark Carney just wants to be left alone to destroy the country. And if people say, well, Fringe, you're being a little harsh here on good old Mark Carney. He's not going to destroy the country, is he? Well, you remember when Mark Carney lowered the carbon tax down to 0? And of course, Pierre Poilievre gave him a lot of scrutiny. Pierre said, you didn't get rid of the carbon tax, you just lowered it. You didn't axe the tax. We want to actually shut it down, make sure it doesn't move forward. In fact, there's still an industrial carbon tax moving around in our industries, which kind of essentially is a carbon tax passed on to us. So the carbon tax hasn't gone anywhere. In fact, as Mark Carney said, I'm going to lower to 0. You're not going to pay any more for fuel. How's that working out for everybody? How's that working out for you guys last time you went to the pump? I don't know about you, but gas stayed down for about a week where I was, and then all of a sudden, right back to where it was. In fact, it's higher than it was less than 2 months ago. Stephen McKinnon now says he can't confirm if Liberals plan on removing carbon tax legislation. But don't worry, it's at 0. Trust us, bro. It's not repealed. It's not removed. It's just paused until it's not. Do you trust the Liberal government, says Mark Nixon? No. Listen to Vashi, really grill hit. Look at this guy. Look at this smirk and smile on Steve McKinnon's face. This guy's a snake, an absolute snake. This is why not just Alberta, this is why people across Western Canada, from Manitoba west, are saying enough. We need independence. We need to break free. And it's not just of Canada. It's nobody's mad at Canada. It's people like this. People like this guy. Their policies, their behavior. This mentality of organized crime in our country. Just keep paying while we just keep lying to you and doing whatever we please. Let's take a listen.
Do you plan to introduce legislation to repeal the consumer carbon tax?
Look, that will have to be done eventually. We want to remove, the carbon tax has been removed. It's at zero.
Well, it's been zeroed. It's not the same thing.
So, it's a latent piece of legislation. I don't know if you've seen the statutes of Canada. There are a lot of laws on the books that either aren't applied anymore or are simply ignored, maybe even forgotten.
So Steve McKinnon says, oh, well, those aren't on the book. Like, there's a lot of latent laws. Just trust us. We're not going to do anything with it. It's at zero. Just come on. You can trust us, right? Right? This is the problem I have with government anytime they're given power. Anytime, especially during the pandemic, when they said, we just need a little bit more power, we'll give it back, we promise. They never give it back. They never give power back to the constituents. When he talks about these latent laws, that's exactly what this is. It's just keep it floating around just in case we ever need to pull it out of the old war chest, in case we ever need to re-implement that and bleed people dry. Right? For now, we'll keep it at zero, but as soon as we need it, bend over. No sense in giving that power back to people to make them breathe a sigh of relief that it's never coming back. Give me a break.
But the carbon tax is absolutely gone, and we'll make sure that that's made very clear to Canadians in due course.
Well, the reason why I ask about that is because, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, the criticism raised by the Conservatives when it was, zeroed was that essentially leaving the possibility open for a time when we are not in a crisis or when your government doesn't feel it is as unpopular as the new Prime Minister has deemed it to be, because you and your colleagues spent years, almost 6 years in fact, saying it was a very vital policy instrument. So there is no chance, you're saying, of that consumer carbon tax ever being resurrected under a Mark Carney government?
Let me be very clear. Mark Carney has been very clear. There is absolutely no intention to go back to a consumer carbon tax.
And when you say that in due course, you mean at one point you do plan to repeal that legislation?
Well, we will absolutely be making it very clear to Canadians that there is no plan to return to a carbon tax. None. Zero.
So we're not going to repeal it. We're not going to just get rid of it. We'll just keep it there. But we'll just tell everybody it's just not coming back. Right? Unbelievable. I'm going to let him finish because it's just... This is the world we live in. This is what's so sad about this. This guy thinks that he can sit there and do this to Canadians and we're just going to take it.
But what does that mean, other than you saying that?
Well, you'll understand that on a very serious level, it's important for me to not speculate about the contents of legislation before it's presented in the House. So if and when that legislation were to be presented, I think that that Canadians would find a reassurance that the carbon tax no longer is part of the climate framework.
You're right that you wouldn't be able to disclose the contents, but you can, and your government has in the past signaled that you intend to introduce something legislatively to that effect. You're not being clear.
I think I've been pretty clear that the net effect for all consumers is there will be no carbon tax. We have no intention of returning to the carbon tax. It is not part of the climate change policy mix for this government.
So, excuse, word salad. Notice that he won't commit to anything because he knows darn well it's going to come back. He knows darn well that this was just a ruse to give Mark Carney some votes. And whether they call it a carbon tax or not, they could change the terminology. They can switch it around. We've shown in multiple videos how they do that before. Things are about to get significantly worse. We just talked about how $400 billion was siphoned out of this country out of taxpayers' hands through bogus bonds with Justin Trudeau. A lot of people missed that video yesterday. You should go check it out. Absolutely unbelievable, the information that's come forward. A recession is looming. People are going to start losing their jobs. People are going to start losing their shirts off their backs. And this government is prepared to drive us beyond the threshold of hell that we're currently already sitting at. I don't like being doom and gloom. But when you have a prime minister who doesn't want to answer questions, who doesn't want to be held accountable for the decisions he makes, and you've got his snaky snake oil salesman sitting in question period with Vashi saying, I can't confirm nor deny, but I'm just saying, trust us, bro. What do you think we're in for in the next 4 years? What do you think's coming our way? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure as you're hitting that subscribe button, you click the bell for all notifications so you don't miss a beat anytime our videos drop here on the channel. Also, join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show, where I go over everything that's happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead that we're aware of, joined by the very beautiful Mrs. Fringe, as we talk outside of making these videos with the greatest YouTube community on this platform. I always look forward to chatting with you guys outside of making these videos each and every week, but I most importantly look forward to chatting with you this Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.